Today I'm going to go over our voice modulator feature that was added in the 2.0 Hydrasynth update. This free update is available on the ASM webpage and is for all models of the Hydrasynth. Also download the 2.0 manual, as there are a complete description of all the new features as well as all the old ones you may or may not be familiar with. With the new 2.0 update, we have a new modulation option in the modulation matrix page called the voice modulator. If you scroll to the end of the list, you'll see that we have voice mod and voice mod plus. The parameters for this modulator are found in the voice page. It's voice page 3 for the Hydrasynth 49 Deluxe and desktop owners, and it's page 6 for the Explorer owners. So what is a voice modulator? The voice modulator is a modulation source that allows you to set positive or negative values that will apply to whatever your modulation destination is per voice. So what's this mean? Let's say, for example, you have a bunch of different values in the voice mod, and you route the voice mod to something like the speed of LFO1. We can do this by selecting the values in the mod matrix or via the shortcut, which is press and hold the voice button, press LFO1, and it creates the modulation routing. So let's turn up the mod amount, and I'm going to just turn up the filter's LFO1 amount. And we'll turn down that cutoff. So when we listen to it, you get your typical LFO modulating the cutoff sound. As you play notes, you'll hear that each note I play has a different speed of modulation. If we look in the values in the voice mod, we'll see that some values are positive, others are negative. When routed to a parameter, this means it will add or subtract from the value of that parameter, in this case the LFO1 rate. To make it a little bit more complicated, in the mod matrix, you can set this value to positive or negative, so it's going to invert that amount. One thing to note, since the voice mod works on the voices, it works with the voice assignment. So ST mode currently is rotate. So every time I play a key, it's triggering a different voice. And so you hear the speeds are very different on each one. If I put it into alternate mode is going to sit there and just reassign the same voice. So every time I play the key, it's getting that same value. If I play a second note, triggering the second voice, you'll see that that voice now plays at its speed. If we put it into random mode, every time I play a note, it's going to pick a random voice. In this example, the voice mod is set to filter cutoff 1. As I play each note, you can hear the cutoff change for each voice that gets played. In this example, we've routed the voice mod to pitch. So every time I play a note, it's going to change the pitch. And because we have 8 voices, you're going to hear 8 different pitches. Sort of like an 8-step sequencer, but being done in the voice page. One thing that's fun to do Each voice right now is tuned to a correct note. If I put it into unison mode, and I turn up the density to choose more voices, you're going to start to hear chords. So now you can actually save chords within your patch. We can go into the voice edit mode and sit there and retune these to different pitches if we want. Kind of angry bees mode there. This example I've made is voice mod going to wave scan. So every note I play, it's going to have a different waveform. If you turn on something like the arpeggiator, it becomes kind of interesting. On older analog synths, one aspect of their sound was that they typically had issues in calibrating things like volts per octave, the filter amounts, pulse width amounts, etc. The Oberheim 4-voice and 8-voice were the poster children of does not calibrate analog synths. The main reason was that each voice was its own synthesizer, and you had to set the knobs to about the same position for each voice, or they would be very different values. Even then, they would be very different values. We can use the voice mod to help simulate this type of sound on the Hydrasynth. In this example, I'm using the voice mod routed to 5 different modulation destinations to affect the sound in each voice slightly differently. I have voice mod detuning VCO on each voice. I also have it changing filter 2 cutoff slightly. I'm using mutants 1 and 3 to vary the pulse width of the sound, and I'm also changing the output level of each voice slightly. Though it sounds a bit like this. I made a separate version of the same patch, but I'm using macro 1 to set the amount of modulation on each of the destinations. You look in patch, you can see I've got 0 amount on the destinations. And in the macro assign, I'm modulating the mod metrics slots that those all live in. So it allows you to hear the sound as it is without any changes. And then with it. It creates a lot more movement in the sound, and it gives it more of what you would find in an analog synth. We already do that a bit with our analog feel. That's how our analog feel works, is it works on the volts per octave scaling, on altering filter amounts and the amp amounts. But now you can dial it in yourself. Let's go back into the mod matrix and note that voice mod is actually 2 different modulation sources. We have voice mod, which you've been hearing, and voice mod plus. Voice mod plus is similar to our LFO settings of we have LFO 1 through 5 and 1 plus through 5 plus. What this is it means that it's bipolar. Voice mod, like an LFO, is bipolar. So when it modulates the parameter, it's going both positive and negative of that parameter's value. When you set it to voice mod plus, now all it's going to do is modulate it positively. above that value. Of course, if I set the modulation amount negative, it's all going to go negative from that value, but it will not swing to both sides. So let's set the modulation amount to 0, and you can hear the bass pitch of the oscillator. As I turn this up with voice mod, you're going to hear that sound going both higher and lower than that pitch. Again, if we set it to 0, but now we change it to voice mod plus, there's your reference pitch, and we turn it up. You'll hear that nothing goes below that pitch. I hope this video gives you some ideas of ways of how you might use the voice mod in interesting ways. I look forward to seeing your videos of how you're using it. Cheers.